Good morning, everybody. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5 minutes allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed the rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal committee decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has the opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will be then taken into committee for a decision. Before we hear the first item, do we need to confirm any minutes from the last meeting?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no minutes to confirm at this point.
There are none?
Correct.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest of the panel or staff for items in the slot?
Mr. Chair, I have a conflict with item 12 as a friend of mine backs onto this property.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Casson. And I have a conflict with item number 8. So I will be stepping out, and Ms. Casson will be taking over as chair for me for that item. Are there any, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any requests for deferral at this time?
There is an item for deferral. Sorry, Mr. Chair, can I just clarify your reason for declaring a conflict?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am friends with the applicant, and I serve on another committee with the applicant for that item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one item that has a deferral notice this morning. It's item number 13.
Okay. Is there anyone here on that that will present on that item?
Members, my name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway. So we are requesting a deferral as we spoke with city planning on this matter, and we want to make some revisions in order to compromise on mutual agreement to move forward on this application on the next iteration. That's the main reason for the request of deferral.
Okay. We require a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have other speakers listed as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes, can those speakers come forward to speak at this time?
Hi, I'm one of the speakers.
Can you just please
should I
state your
speak?
name and an address for the record?
My name is Nick Casimir, and I live at 102 DINNICK Crescent.
Thank you.
Do you want me to go ahead or am I respectful?
At this time, we're just asking to speak specifically to the request for deferral.
I am okay with the deferral, and I'm assuming that means the developer will share his plans with me.
Can you repeat the last sentence?
Can I assume that the developer will share the plans with me prior to the meeting?
I'm gonna, Mr. Deputy.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the applicant is still on the line and should respond to that question directly.
Thank you.
Hello. I will encourage the homeowners to contact you to discuss this application. We always encourage our clients to speak with neighbors. So definitely, now that I know 102 DINNICK Crescent has a concern on this matter, we will definitely get in contact with you.
Thank you. We have another speaker as well from 106, I believe. If you can just come on down and state your name and address into the mic for us. Good morning.
Oh. My concern is that this property is not going to end up looking like what is in the neighborhood.
Okay, hold on. We're just speaking to the request for deferral at this time. I don't want to get into the merits of the application.
Okay,
So do you have anything to say to the request for deferral at this time?
I do want it deferred.
You do. So you would support a request or a motion for deferral?
Yes, because it just doesn't fit in the neighborhoods.
Okay,
Yeah.
very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else from the applicant at this time?
No other comments from our end.
Okay. Do we have, let's take this into committee.
Could I motion to approve? I'd like to motion to approve the request for deferral.
Do we have a seconder? Okay. Your request for deferral is approved.
Thank you.
All in favor? Sorry, your request for deferral is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm assuming there are no other deferral requests.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have no other deferral requests from applicants at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Okay, so we are going to jump to item number 1, the address 237 Lord Seaton Road. So the purpose of this application is to legalize the existing rear deck, and we have a variance before us for rear deck projection. On file, I have a package from the applicant, including a planning rationale document. We have a report from forestry. We have a letter of support from the neighbor at 239 Lord Seaton Road, and we have 2 letters of objection, one from the neighbor at 2 Cotswold Crescent and one from the neighbor at 235 Lord Seaton Road. So if we can just have the applicant. When we have the applicant, if they can just say their name and address before they speak, and also advise if they are making any changes to the application.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and Committee of Adjustment staff. My name is Andrew Palumbo V and Hall Planning Limited, and I am the planner and agent for 237 Lord Seaton Road, and my address is 38 Betty Nagle Street in Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you.
I do have a brief presentation if the committee was ready to hear it.
Yes, we would like to hear a presentation on this. Whenever
Great.
you're ready.
Okay, so I'll try to be, I will try to be brief in my presentation to the committee this morning, given that a more detailed planning justification letter has already been submitted in support of the proposed application, which is an after-the-fact minor variance application to legalize the existing rear deck at the subject site. It currently exceeds the projection requirements of the zoning bylaw, whereby 2.5 meters is required and 6.2 meters is now provided. To provide some brief background on this application, firstly, there's always been a rear deck at the subject site, and it's required due to the topography of the property. The kitchen door leading out to the backyard is above ground. However, it was previously taking on a 2-tiered format. So these were included as part of the the photos that have been enclosed as part of this application, both separately and as part of the justification letter. The existing rear deck has now been reconfigured to remove the tiers and instead now provides a consolidated 1-level rear deck with stairs at the end of the deck. The existing rear deck was completed during the COVID-19 pandemic, a time when it was a bit more difficult to gain access and communication with the city. And unfortunately, as I understand it, the retained contractor at the time mistakenly believed that a permit was not required due to the presence of the existing deck and the presence of a similar rear decks that have been observed throughout this neighborhood. In addition, during the original site visit from the city building inspector, it was still a bit unclear as to whether or not a permit was required or not for the new rear deck that was being built. Following the subsequent building inspection and upon submission of a building permit for a more detailed zoning review was completed, as it is as part of the building permit process, it was then determined that there was a zoning deficiency relative to the rear projection as noted and as being sought for approval at the committee today. Secondly, I should note there are no objections to the standard urban forestry condition of approval that has been identified with respect to this application in the urban forestry staff report. In addition, city planning staff have no objection to the proposed application, subject to the existing deck remaining as is and as per the plan submitted to the city. That all being said, It is my opinion that the proposed minor variance application at the subject site meets the 4 tests for a minor variance under the Planning Act, represents good planning, and should be approved by this committee for the following key reasons. Firstly, there is no change to the existing south side yard setback to accommodate the new deck that has been constructed at the subject site. So the new deck does not get any closer to the adjacent neighbor to the south. Secondly, the height of the new deck is unchanged from the previously permitted deck. It remains even with the main floor of the house off the kitchen. In addition, in the presence of the previously permitted rear deck on the subject site, the new deck does not create any new issues relative to privacy or overlook. Again, also considering that the rear deck has not gotten any closer to the adjacent south neighbor. This has been the case the entire time the existing homes have been built for over 20 years or so now. Although the deck itself has a larger projection than was permitted by the zoning bylaw, this does not trigger any rear yard setback reduction variance, nor does it trigger any reductions to landscape open space, as there still remains ample backyard amenity space as a result of the new deck. Lastly, and again, relative to privacy between the immediate adjacent south neighbor, just again to reiterate, the deck maintains the existing setback and appropriate separation between the properties. And given the presence of the previous deck at this site, a similar privacy and overlook condition continues to exist between the two properties on this basis. And although the deck extends further outward to the rear of the property, it has not gotten closer to the adjacent neighbor to the south, as noted, and nor has it changed in height. And lastly, in order to help mitigate privacy, the owner has planted 4 trees along this common boundary to further mitigate privacy between the two properties, which are anticipated to grow up to 15 feet in height. Those are the key points I just wanted to raise to the committee this morning. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another speaker from 235 Lord Seaton Road, I believe here in person. Good morning. Please come on down to the podium and state your name. And if you can, state your address. As I know I've just stated it, but we need to state it for the record.
Okay. Hi, you can hear us okay. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Surjeet Marwaha, and I'm accompanied here by my husband, Gaurav Marwaha. We reside at the property 235 Lord Seaton Road and have been the most impacted neighbor by this illegal construction of this deck at 237 Lord Seaton Road. The applicant is asking for a zoning variance for the deck for the allowable 2.5 meters from the rear wall to a 6.2 meters. That is an increase of 150%. Regularly, we would have been here to discuss the potential issues and challenges regarding the construction of such a deck, particularly with a significant zoning variance. However, we find ourselves in a unique position today. It has taken over 2 years with the help of the City of Toronto to get this hearing, while our neighbor has enjoyed his illegal deck without any concern for the negative impact that it may have had on us, and has applied for the variance only when forced to do so. The situation has caused us immense stress and anxiety over the loss of privacy and enjoyment of our property for an extended period of time.
We have already submitted our concerns and strong objections to the Committee of Adjustments in writing with pictures. Today, I wish to reiterate our concerns regarding this matter. Size, elevation, location. The new deck is significantly larger, higher, and closer to our property, allowing direct sight into our living spaces and impeding upon our privacy. It has destroyed the feeling of space that our property once had. Number 2, lack of consultation. Mr. Mehra's failure to comply for permits deprived us of an opportunity to voice concerns and reach a mutually beneficial agreement. Thirdly, safety and security. Direct views into our house pose security concerns, and relocation of the steps adjacent to our property line is unsettling. Number 4, precedent. Granting approval for the zoning violation would set a precedent for other neighbors to follow suit, potentially breaching bylaw regulations. For example, 90 Montresor Drive, one of the properties backing onto Lord Seaton, has requested a minor zoning variance of 3 meters. There is no reason that if this is passed, that they will not also request a larger variance. And lastly, providing false information. The applicant built the deck without a permit, substantially exceeding permitted dimensions, and ignored concerns until forced to act by a city work order. Such conduct should not be dismissed lightly. In response to the planning justification letter from Ian Hall Planning Limited, I want to clarify that the temporary lattice screen was installed by us after the construction of the deck. The measure was implemented by us under duress to mitigate the excessive invasion of privacy due to the applicant's delay in complying with city officials. The heightened fence now exceeds code and is not a viable long-term solution.
We urge the committee to thoroughly review this case, considering the adverse effects on our property. The variance is substantial in this situation because it's adjacent to our house. We should not suffer due to the applicant's failure to follow the proper process. The applicant should either reduce the deck to conform to bylaw standards or submit a revised plan that goes through the due process and preserves our privacy and safety. In closing, I would just like to say that I'm deeply disappointed when we noticed that our neighbor was expanding the deck significantly. We asked him if he received permission to do so from the city. He chose to deceive us by saying everything had been taken care of. But as it turns out, since I was involved in a renovation of my home, I had periodic visits from the city inspectors. When I learned from the city inspectors that no permit had been applied for, I felt very, very deceived. It feels like my neighbor was trying to take away our opportunity to have a voice. We are most impacted neighbor by the illegal construction, and this is exactly the kind of situation the planning process is in place for. I do hope the committee takes this deception into account in determining the right remedy for the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the committee?
I have a question for the applicant. Yes, okay. I wanted to hear more about the privacy issues and what are the responses that the applicant can share about this in regards to the concerns of the neighbor.
Perhaps, actually, maybe we should allow the applicant to speak to the neighbor's comments first, and then would that be okay with everybody? Yes? Okay. Can we get the applicant back?
I'm here, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
And I'll include a response with respect to the privacy issue as per the question just posed to me anyway. Firstly, just to touch upon a few quick things, I can only speak to my involvement on this application. I was actually retained, just talking about the longevity and how long it takes applications to transpire and go through the process. I was involved since January of 2023, and we submitted the application in July. This all had to do with getting proper drawings organized and prepared, and even going back to the drawing board, updating drawings. There's all the correspondences there between myself and Simon Lamb with the Committee of Adjustment. We've actually had a lot of extensive correspondence between one another throughout this whole entire process since I've been retained. And I can only speak to my involvement. I can't speak to any of the prior occurrences leading up to the need for a minor variance application for this site. One item I just wanted to quickly clarify, I heard the deputant's comments about the deck getting higher. I just want to clarify the deck has not gotten taller. It is still the same height as it was in its previous format. It has extended further, but it is a situation that it has not increased in height. And it's just what I already touched upon when I made my original presentation. It's for the reasons of the setback still being intact with the adjacent neighbor to the south, the deputants that spoke, the deck not getting any taller in height, not triggering any further variances with respect to rear yard or landscape open space that make a deck a projection like this an appropriate situation. It's because for these other reasons why it can be supported from, in my opinion, anyway. One thing I will apologize for, I actually did not know, I saw further correspondence from the deputants about the lattice, the privacy lattice being in place that was temporary. When I wrote my letter, I actually was not aware of that. So that's something I understand why it was put in place. And I think obviously to keep that, it will require a fence permit or a fence variance. So that's something completely separate from what's before the committee today. And lastly, with respect to privacy, like I already mentioned in my first part of the presentation, and to answer the panelist's question, there has been tree plantings that have already been planted along that boundary. And one thing I will also, if the committee feels it's appropriate, I have spoken with the owner of this property. If there's a need to put further shielding or privacy mitigation along the south part of the rear deck that faces the adjacent neighbor, the owner is willing to obviously consider that and add that to further mitigate privacy from the deck onto that neighboring property. That's not on the plans right now, but it is something that definitely, if the committee feels that to be a condition of approvals, if they wish to approve this application, the owner is definitely willing to also further augment privacy by adding additional shielding or privacy screen on the actual edge of the rear deck right now. It'll also factor into the trees as well. That combined with the trees that have been planted can serve to provide some sufficient privacy.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from our committee?
Yes, I have a question. So my understanding is that the previous deck was a two-tier deck, correct? So
Correct.
it would have been, you would extend out a certain distance, and then there would be a drop, and then extend out further, or am I correct?
That's right, and that is correct. And then when it extended out, there was also a bump out on the rear of the house that bumped that extension, the lower tier, further out as well. That's why if you look at the pictures, it looks a little further extended than the kitchen, the part of the deck that walks out from the kitchen door.
Sorry, so there was a bump out previously in the house and that was removed? Or, okay. What's the difference in the size of the upper tier? Do you know that information?
I don't know that offhand, only because again, when the original deck was there, I'm not sure of those previous measurements. So unfortunately, I cannot provide that. I can look to try and provide that somehow, but I don't have that information on hand.
Okay, okay, understood.
But I guess just as I mentioned, it's just this is a bit of a reconfiguration of what's in place right now from one consolidated level as opposed to a split tier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Those are the questions I have for the applicant.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions? No. So I just have a clarifying question. So in your presentation, you noted that the height remains unchanged. But just to clarify, when you say that, my understanding is that you had two separate heights with respect to this deck, and when it was reconstructed, the higher height, that taller portion was
the
used.
2.51 meters is what remains intact. That's correct.
Right, and now that height now applies to the bulk or the entirety of the new deck.
That's
opposed to just a
that
section.
is correct.
Okay. Okay.
That is correct. Because now it's a consolidated single level deck as opposed to a split level.
Okay. If there's no further questions, we will move into committee. Okay, so we're gonna move into committee, going into committee at this time.
I have concerns with regard to privacy as well. I think when you consider a few factors, so this particular deck would have a usable area where people would gather. Previously with a two-tier, I'm thinking people would have probably used the upper tier and then walked down to the lower tier. The second point is, yes, I understand that there may be instances where it's appropriate to extend a deck 6 meters out into the rear yard. In this particular case, the deck is 2.5 meters in height, so that is taller than what you would typically provide for a fence. So there is, I do see that there is a privacy concern. And the other point I have is it's completely aligned with the side property line. So it's not like, so if there was a different orientation or something, it may, those factors could be considered, but in this case, it's entirely aligned with that side property line. So those are I do have concerns. I share concerns with the neighbors in this instance.
Any other comments?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I share the concerns of the other panel member. However, I also recognize that the only variance required here is the depth of the projection, and it's meeting all other bylaw requirements in terms of backyard landscaping, side yard setback. And I believe the privacy concern has been somewhat mitigated by the owner, but could be further mitigated by providing privacy panels on the south elevation, I believe it is, of the deck.
Any comment?
I think I would like to see how that I think I would like to see how that privacy mitigation would look. I know that it is a height, like as existing, the height is 2.5 meters. So if you were providing a privacy panel, you would be going probably up another, I would say, another 2 meters. So that's essentially a 4 meter wall against the property line, which is you do see that on the photos that were taken with those those existing panels that were put in by the neighbor. It's a pretty tall it's a pretty tall wall dividing up properties.
Could we have the photos back up to show the deck, please? So I would just say that I believe the privacy panel could extend from the base of the deck up. So I don't know that you'd be doing it from the ground up. So that could be mitigated.
Okay, so in that case, we're getting to redesign, and I think it may be appropriate that the applicant come in with something before a decision is made on the application.
Okay.
Do we need to ask the applicant if they're okay with, through the chair, do we need to ask the applicant if they're okay with us deferring a decision at this point?
You don't necessarily require his permission, but you should ask for his comment. There may be other ways that he can address your concerns without a deferral, but you should allow him the opportunity to speak if you are considering a deferral.
In that case, I'm going to bring us out of committee for a moment, and if we can just go back to the applicant and allow Mr. Auspitz to ask his question.
Would the applicant be open to a deferral on the application to come up with a strategy brought to the committee to address the privacy concern?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, potentially for a deferral to show privacy panels. Again, it would just be on the actual deck itself. So beyond that, it would to provide the shielding along that side. So yes, the answer is yes. But one of the things I can suggest, as Mr. Lambs said to the committee, it could also be where there's if a condition of approval is implemented, subject to the approval of city planning staff, because that would obviously advise of some level of sufficient clearance that's needed. That could also potentially work, and if it's a condition of approval, it'll force the applicant to do it no matter what, and to the satisfaction of the city. So that's potentially another option. But if absolutely deemed necessary for a deferral, to go back to the drawing board and draw something in place to show privacy along that section of the deck, I guess that's also an alternative as well. Those are my two suggestions or options that the committee technically has before them. But definitely said, like, just to be very clear, there's definitely a willingness to do something. Despite, again, the height's not a variance that's being requested here. That's still, it's a condition that exists previously, but this is just to further mitigate, given that it has extended out a little bit, but the height itself doesn't need a variance. So this is just to add and mitigate and augment privacy to just, again, to ensure the good buffering and privacy between the two properties.
So it's, it's my understanding that if we were to request a privacy fence and we would want it to be designed in this, we would want to make sure that privacy impacts were mitigated. It is my understanding that we would be the ones who would need to see that because this wasn't a condition requested by planning staff. Am I correct in that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's not appropriate that the panel be the approval authority for any condition. You're free to implement a condition, but I agree that it should neither go back to planning as they did not request this condition, nor should it be yourselves that clear that conditions. You can simply state a condition if you so please that a privacy fence be installed or screening be installed at a certain height above the highest floor deck, if you so choose. But you should not be declaring agency or body that clears that condition on a decision.
Understood. So it's my understanding that if we would have to go with a deferral if we would want to see the privacy fence with an application.
Also keep in mind, you may not be the panel that reviews it as well when it comes back. And if you are qualified to review that condition and approve it.
Is that answers your question? Okay, so I'm going to bring us back into committee. Are we ready for a motion?
I'd like to motion to defer the application to address privacy considerations.
Do we have a seconder? We have a seconder. Okay, the application is deferred.
All in favor? Or
All in
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All in favor. The application is
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to item number 2, 136 McKee Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new dwelling. We are here today for variances for east and west side yard setbacks, rear deck projection, east and west side exterior main walls, number of stories, main entrance elevation, and lot coverage. On file, I have drawings package from the applicant, a report from community planning, as well as letters of objection from 134 McKee Avenue and 138 McKee Avenue. Can we please have the applicant come forward and give us a presentation?
Hi, good morning. My name is Nushin Mozaffari from Hyphen Studio. I'm representing my client, owner of 136 McKee.
Good morning.
Good morning. If I want to give you a brief presentation, this is a regular 2-story house on top of garage, which is now with this new amendment to the bylaw, it's considered 3-story, but in reality it's 2-story. Variance number 1 for side setback on the east side. If you look at the site plan, only the front portion, less than 1/3 of the wall at the front is at 4-foot setback, and the rest not only meets the required setback, but also it's more in the middle where we have like a recess in the building mass. And for the setback on the other side, on the west side, also this 5-foot setback is for the front portion, and at the rear we have 11-foot setback, which is much more than required. The rear deck projection is because of the height of the deck, but the setback of the deck is 6 foot and in compliance with the bylaw. So we have a generous setback from the property line. And variance number 4 and 5 are for the wall height, which is slightly over the allowed. It's only 10 inches higher to provide clear height for the windows. And variance number 6 is for the number of stories. As you can see, the building is actually 2-story, but with this new amendment that has changed the definition of the first floor, the basement, the proposed basement is now considered as first story, and consequently the building is 3-story, and this is a technical variance. Number 7 is for the height of the entrance, which is slightly over than allowed. And number 8, which is a very common variance, is for the lot coverage, which is 32% instead of 30% allowed lot coverage. We had back and forth with the planning, and planning is suggesting that the committee's decision be tied to the site plan and site elevations, and we are absolutely okay with that. I would be happy to answer any questions. That's it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the applicant? No questions?
I have one question, Mr. Chair. Of the applicant, how high is this deck off the ground? The deck on the back of the house?
I can give you the number right now. Just a moment. It's almost 2 meters from the ground at the rear.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move this into committee. Oh, one more. Do we have any other speakers? I don't have anyone listed. Can we just get a confirmation from staff that there are no other speakers to this file?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have no other speakers.
Great. And no other questions. Let's move this into committee.
I'm assuming your question was because the previous application we refused a deck. When I did look at both of these applications together, with this one, it is lower by about 0.5 meter, and I think the orientation of this deck is very different than the other one. So, for example, this is very much a square deck. The other one was a deck right along a property line. So, in terms of making sure our decisions are consistent.
I had a similar kind of analysis myself with this, and certainly the one that I flagged was the deck, certainly because we were just looking at this with the previous application. I also note there were some concerns from the neighbor at number 134 with respect to tree roots. I'll also acknowledge that I see in the application they did step the building in at the rear, which I think does a good job of responding to this concern. No other comments? So
Sorry, I just had to find my page. I'm just acknowledging the objection letter that we received from 138 McKee, which is to the east, I believe, and the concern about the side yard setback on the one side from 1.22 to 1.8, where the bylaw requires 1.8, and they're going down to 1.22, which I had a bit of a concern with.
I'd like to motion to approve. And I'm seeing that subject to conditions of planning.
Yeah, I second that.
all in favor? Okay, the application is approved.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Now moving on to item number 3, 156 Cummer Avenue. The purpose of this application is to construct a new fourplex with a basement garage with variances for window projection, rear yard soft landscaping, lot coverage, building length, front yard setback, and side yard setback. 5 items I have are, a moment here. We have our package from the applicant, planning rationale letter from the applicant's representative, as well as an arborist report. We have letters of support from the neighbor at 158 Cummer Avenue and a letter of objection from 973 Willowdale Avenue. We also have some late staff reports from community planning, and as well I see a letter from the counselor, as well as I believe we have some revisions from the applicant on this. If staff wouldn't mind pulling up some of those late correspondence that just came in so that we could see them on the screen, I'm going to ask the applicant to come forward, state their name and address, and let us know if they are making any changes to the application.
Good morning. My name is Jim Pfeffer. I'm the applicant for this project. I'm at 54 Belsize Drive in Toronto, and I will, in fact, be making 2 changes. So for variance number 2, which is variance number 2, which is the rear yard soft landscaping, we're going to make that 38%. Where it was 36.46%. Now, I know that's a small change, but we're also shrinking the rear yard a little bit. And we're shrinking the rear yard a little bit because we're increasing the front yard setback, which is variance number 5, to 11.35 meters, whereas we had asked for 10.5. Staff, in their report, had asked that we make it 12, and we cannot do that for reasons which I'm, really happy to get into when I start my presentation. So variance 2 becomes 38%, increasing slightly the rear yard landscaping. Variance 5 becomes 11.35 meters, a pretty large front yard setback instead of 10.5 meters, going more than halfway to meet staff's request of 12 meters.
Okay, thank you. Can we get a presentation on this?
Yeah, so if you pull up my most recent presentation booklet, you'll see this rendering of the project on the front page. And what you'll see is a fourplex. And you'll be aware that the city has recently enacted zoning bylaw and official plan changes to allow fourplexes and triplexes as of right in neighborhoods that used to only have single-family homes. What they asked designers to do for these houses is to think within the box, and that's exactly what we've done. This box is exactly 17 meters long, the as-of-right length for a house. It complies with the height. Our side setbacks are greater than what you typically find in the neighborhood. We comply with the rear yard setback, and we've got this very large setback from Cummer. You'll look at this rendering and you'll ask yourself, well, where are the cars? And that's a great question And you'll see off on the far left-hand side, we've actually got a ramp down for putting all the cars in a basement garage. So going to the next page, this is our revised site plan. So you can see that driveway. I've called out the slopes on that driveway. We cannot make it any shorter and make the slope work to bring the cars into the garage. We can't shrink it and allow for proper vehicle maneuvering. That driveway is as small as it can be. The neighbor to the north on the left side of this image says, I'd rather have the driveway off of CUMMER next to the bus stop, next to the signalized intersection. It's not only unsafe, it's not what the bylaw calls for. The bylaw says driveways on corner lots have to be on the flank. Staff has said we should have this 18-meter front yard setback, and you can see in red the as of right box that would result in. That 18-meter setback is there because of a historical condition of lots that were 300 feet long. It never applied to this lot or the neighboring lots, and it doesn't apply through most of the neighborhood now. The only neighbor that would arguably be affected by this decreased front yard setback to the top of this image to the east has sent in a letter of support, and he welcomes this reduced front yard setback to provide more screening for his property towards this signalized busy intersection. It's also next to his garage door and driveway, so it doesn't affect the view out from his house. You can see 17 meters long, that's the box. The small length variance we're asking for, that's to this light well, which also allows for maneuvering in the garage. Now, if we made that box less than 17 meters, we couldn't make the garage work. Staff says increase the front yard setback. We've pushed it all the way to the required rear yard setback. We've got this 17-meter box. On the right-hand side of this image, you'll see from the staff report on multiplexes the envelope they say you should build into. 17 meters, 1.5 meter setback, exactly what we've done. We can't shrink that 17 meters and still make our garage work. On the next page, you'll see some decisions of this committee and by council in this area. We're at that intersection in the center. 3 lots to the east, council approved coverage of 40%. Also, further down, same side of the block, 42% approved by council. On the next page, getting into the established physical character of the neighborhood, 3 blocks to the north on Willowdale, there's a house approved by this committee. It's on the bottom on the right-hand side, bigger footprint than what we're proposing. Bigger lot, so they didn't need a lot coverage variance. The next page, you can see the elevation of that building. On the bottom, it's bigger than what we're proposing. And on the next page, there's some photos of this context. There's that house that I've been talking about on the upper right. You can see all of that bigger massing approved by this committee, 3 doors to the north, presenting to the street. There's some of those 40% lot coverage houses. And if you can just go a couple of pages down to that aerial photograph, there's this intersection. We did a shadow study. I think we can get into that. Here you go. When the bylaw was passed, all of those lots, 300 feet deep, except ours and the neighboring lots, now there's a whole new street. There's these courtyard developments where staff has approved front yard setbacks of 12 meters, 7.5 meters, 7 meters. So what we're asking for, really reasonable, and we've done everything we can to apply to city policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have any questions before we move on to the next speaker?
I have a question.
Yes.
When I was reading the staff reports, probably the most important thing that they raised was regarding front yard setback. What is your position on the intent of the, do you have a position on the intent of the bylaw? I know I believe you're an architect. So what is it and the intent of the bylaw on providing for an 18-meter front yard setback, or what the bylaw is intending to achieve?
Okay, if you could just go back to those two aerial photographs. You know, this is a really interesting question, and I actually brought this up to the staff in charge of the zoning bylaw, and I said, maybe you should have an amendment because the intent doesn't apply here anymore. And they said, well, that wouldn't be a technical amendment, and what we expect to see is we expect to see that changing over time through minor variance applications like this. The next page with the aerial photographs, please. So the former City of North York bylaw was passed in 1952. So here's an aerial photograph from 1954. And what you'll see is fronting CUMMER, all of those lots are in excess of 300 feet deep. So they have a lot of room to set back considerably from CUMMER Avenue. So those lots had this 18-meter required setback, but that's basically the extent of it that you see here. If you go a little bit beyond this on CUMMER, the required setback was 7.5 meters plus or minus a meter. So you zoom forward to today. Now, where that lot that's highlighted in blue, what you'll see on the left-hand side of that image is that there's been an entire new street added, Doverwood Court. They cut those 300-foot lots in half, and now there's, you know, properties facing Doverwood, properties facing CUMMER. So that condition that led to this requirement for an 18-meter setback just doesn't exist anymore. Going to the right, you'll see that Becky Chung Court. So that's a new courtyard development, and that's where City Council recently approved a reduced setback of 12 meters for 4 houses fronting CUMMER there. If you go a little bit further down, there's Geranium Court, and this is what OPA 320 would call the immediate context, because it's on this block, it's the same side of the same street. Geranium Court, it's the end of that former area of these 300-foot lots. And what City Council approved in a zoning bylaw amendment for those lots was 2 lots with a 7.5-meter front yard setback, 1 with a 7-meter setback. So here, you know, immediately to the right, we've got a neighbor who's fully in support of this. He sent in a letter to the committee to say so. If you cross Willowdale, what you'll find is that you've got a corner lot, which is actually set back maybe 2 meters to CUMMER because it fronts on Willowdale. So if you go across the street, as a matter of fact, if you go down a couple of pages, there's another aerial photograph of this immediate context. Yeah, so there, on the right-hand side, that's across the street, that house, you know, hardly set back from CUMMER at all because it's a side lot line condition. We're coming forward. We're coming in forward in front of this guy's, you know, driveway, garage door, and he's sent in a letter of support. And to the back, where, of course, we're maintaining the required rear yard setback, building the 17-meter box. So that's the intent of that bylaw as I see it. And we can't, if you go one more page, you'll get to our garage plan. So we've pushed the house all the way to the rear yard setback. So we can't go back any further without asking for a rear yard variance. Take a look at those garage plan. Each one of those spaces is 3.2 meters wide. That's the minimum for a parking space in this configuration. That drive aisle, 6 meters wide, that stair, believe me, I shoehorned that stair into there to make it work. We can't make this building any shorter to reduce that front yard setback any further and make it work. And I'd just like to say, my client is really passionate about having functional units for families. These units are, you can see they're 3-bedroom quality units. They're the size of unit that the city says in its growing up guidelines is appropriate for a 3-bedroom unit for families. The document on multiplexes that City Council passed says that we need to provide upwards of 1,200 new ground-related family units per year to meet the demands of the city. You know, I'm so excited to bringing this project forward to help meet that demand. Thank you.
So I'm just going to paraphrase. So what I'm hearing you say is that the intent of the bylaw is to maintain a stable community character, and that stable community character has already been impacted. So that 18-meter setback is not consistent along CUMMER Avenue anymore. There's several examples that you've pointed out where this has been infringed. And there's also OP policies and zoning policies that encourage a range and mix of housing types and as well as OP policies that require additional housing.
Absolutely. I think that summarizes very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have another, any other questions from our other? No. Do we have another speaker on this item? I believe I have somebody from 973 Willowdale Avenue. Oh, hello, good morning. Please come on down. If you can just state your name and address for us.
Hi, how are you, everyone? Yeah, I'm Violet. I'm on behalf of my friend Gerger. She's the owner, 973 Willowdale.
Okay. Yes.
So we are rejected this project for specific for driveway, because we submit the letter for the reason. Actually, I will say a little detail here. Because you can see the picture, I know there's some law. I thought I was listening to the applicants, what he said, and he said the one thing he said is dangerous on the driveway to the commerce. That sounds like weird for us, because now current one the driveway is on the CUMMER. That's what the current one. So if the dangerous, why is the current one there? So now they changed the driveway to the Willowdale, and just beside the house. But all our windows, the bedroom windows, all on the driveway. But that's so much noise at dusk for sure, because our basement, they have windows just above the floor, the ground. So that's where causes so many dusk, noisy, and also so many lights if they come so late at night, because I think that's for 4 units for the new building that come to build it. So that's so many issue for that. We are just only concerned that one. So driveway, they have to keep the current one, current site on the CUMMER. They cannot change. And another thing, and we are so feel strange, because they own the CUMMER, right? But now they change it to Willowdale. That's the number. So they will become the owner Willowdale, the building. That's what I consider. They changed it totally from CUMMER to the Willowdale. So we are only one concern. That's it. It's for the driveway. Please, they cannot build this beside our house. So close. I think 1 meter, maybe less than 1.5 meter. The driveway, the new driveway. So that's what we can't agree with this. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and really close to windows, all the bedroom windows. So our bedrooms, all the side of south. We are just detached the driveway, the new driveway they were built.
Very good. Do we have any questions for this speaker? No questions. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Can we allow the applicant some time to speak to the last speaker?
Yeah, so I would like to tell the committee that I did, in fact, talk to the homeowner. So I distributed letters to all of the people who would have gotten the notice, and I spoke to both adjacent homeowners, including this one. So if you could pull up that aerial photo, it's close to the very back of my presentation. And I'll tell the committee while you do that it is in the bylaw, 10.5.80.40, access to a parking space says that in the residential zone category, vehicle access to a parking space in a lot must be from a flanking street if the area does not abut a lane. So, and that's the existing condition. So there's that very busy intersection there's a massive driveway on this property right now, like massive. What we're proposing is smaller. And you can see there a little bit to the right of that driveway exit, that's a bus stop. A lot of pedestrians along here, right at the corner. This is not what I would call a safe condition. So if you go up a couple of pages, you'll see some photos of that intersection itself. And you can, wow. So it's not a great spot for that driveway to be. We did the shadow study to show there were no impacts, but that's not what's before the committee. So if you go to the site plan, there is no garage in the backyard. The bylaw asks us to put the driveway off of CUMMER rather than here. The garage door is actually going to be in the basement, so it's not going to be visible. There's a fence there that we're going to keep. We're going to plant some new trees. And to tell, it's a fourplex. It's not an apartment building. There is not going to be people driving in and out of here all day. And the fact is, fourplexes are allowed. The driveways for fourplexes are allowed. We will work with the neighbor to do everything we can to mitigate any impact of this. But the location of the driveway, we're not asking for variance for that. And the size, there's really nothing we can do about it. And I think staff recommended it be permeable pavers. Of course, we're happy to accept that as a condition.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from our committee at this time? Nope. Okay. I'm going to move this into committee for discussion.
I have no concerns with the proposal. I like it. I think it meets the 4 tests for a minor variance. The applicant has answered the specific question, I think, very well regarding the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. And yeah, that's my position.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would agree in terms of supporting the goals of the city for increasing housing as well within neighborhoods. I think this application fits in very well with the neighborhood and would contribute to that goal of providing more housing.
I would like to motion to approve subject to the condition regarding permeable pavers from planning.
I might also note we have some amended variances before us,
sorry.
as well as the front yard setback and variances number 2 and number 5. Would you like to?
Yes, I would like to amend I'd like to approve with amendments put forward by the applicant, subject to the condition of planning staff regarding permeable pavers. Thank you for correcting that or catching that.
Okay. And do we need to state the variances specifically that are being changed? No, we don't. Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. All in favor? The application is approved.
Thank you so much for your time today.
I will just note if there are additional questions from anybody in attendance, they can be directed towards staff at an appropriate time. Okay, we're moving on to item number 4, 267 Yonge Boulevard. Purpose of the application is to construct a new single-family dwelling. We have variances for rear platform encroachment and setback at the north and south lot lines, rear canopy encroachment and setback at the south lot line, side yard setback at the north and south lot lines. On file, I have drawings and a package from the applicant, including an arborist report, as well as a report from forestry. If we can have the applicant come forward, state their name and address for us.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Good morning.
My name is Roland Olfig. I reside at 347 Sororan Avenue. and I'm the agent for the proposal at 267 Young Boulevard. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Rahim Kassam. Per the examiner's notice, this property is zoned RDF18, which requires a minimum lot frontage of 18 meters and a minimum side yard setback of 1.8 meters. We are simply requesting a 1.5 meter side yard setback be granted, as it would address all the 5 variances per the examiner's notice. The lot width is less than 18 meters at 15.24 meters. A 1.5 meter side yard setback is typical in the RD zone for a lot with less than 18 meters. And per a committee of adjustment research request, and as shown on our cover letter, there are 8 properties within 140 meters of this site which have received a minor variance to reduce their side yard setback from 1.8 meters to either 1.5 or 1.2 meters. So in conclusion, the 1.5 meter side yard setback variance soft is appropriate for a lot of this width. The variance is minor in nature, and similar standards exist in the immediate neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? Nope. I believe we have another speaker. No. I have the homeowner listed, but I presume that the applicant, you'll be speaking on his behalf today?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Do we have anyone else registered to speak? I'm just confirming I don't have anybody else on my list.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we don't have anybody else.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? I'll ask again. Otherwise, we'll move this into committee. Okay, move this into committee.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to put forward a motion for approval of this application, subject to Urban Forestry's comments and that the site be developed in accordance with the site plan to ensure that the side yard setbacks are built accordingly, according to what was requested or what's shown on the site.
Mr. Chair, I second that.
All in favor? The application is approved.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5, 4050 Young Street. Give me a moment here. The purpose of the application is to reduce the minimum required residential parking and to permit short-term bike parking in a stacker. Variances are noted with respect to the purpose of the application. On file, I have application material from the applicant as well as a letter from Transportation Services. Can we please have the applicant for this item come forward, state your name and address?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Tony Volpentesta. I'm a partner at the land use planning consulting firm of Bousfields. My address is 3 Church Street, Suite 200, M5E 1M2. I appear before you this morning on behalf of Young Park Plaza Incorporated, seeking the 2 variances that you just noted. Critically, the initial application led to the adoption and approval of a site-specific zoning bylaw by the Ontario Land Tribunal back in June of 2022. The initial application itself predates the approval of the provisions of the citywide bylaw 89/2022, which amended parking provisions citywide and in fact has no associated minimum parking requirements. The noteworthy fact in reviewing the transportation justification filed by BA Group and the planning rationale filed by me, the key document in your file would be a memorandum from Transportation Services dated November 15th, 2023, wherein I think the Transportation Services Department makes a critical observation that there's an abundance of public transit options. The lowering of the parking standard is completely supported by Transportation Services, and the location of short-term bicycle parking spaces in a stacked configuration was also supported. I am aware of the 2 associated conditions imposed by Transportation Services in their memorandum to you dated November 15th. I've reviewed those 2 conditions with my clients, and they are completely in agreement and would abide by them. Those are effectively my remarks, and I'm here to answer questions as necessary.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of the applicant?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have one question of the applicant. How the short-term bicycle parking spaces are for the public, as in visitors to the site. How do they gain access to the stacked bicycle parking facility?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the short-term bicycle parking spaces are in fact located at grade or on the first parking level of the building below grade. They're effectively, they're being included, the short-term bicycle parking spaces have been included on the ground floor, and they are visually and readily apparent to a visitor to the site.
Thank you.
And the Transportation Services Department reviewed that and concluded in their second last paragraph of the memo that the arrangement is acceptable.
Thank you.
No other questions? Okay, I'm going to move this into committee.
Could I motion to approve, subject to conditions of transportation? I'd like to motion to approve, subject to conditions of transportation.
Do we have a seconder? We do. All in favor? Oh, Ms. Casson seconds. All in favor? Okay, the application is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Mr. Chair, we're approaching 1.5 hours. If you would like to take a break or continue with one more item, I'll leave that in your hands.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer. I did notice that. Are we for a break at this time? Are we okay to do one more? Okay, we'll do one more and then we'll take 10. Okay, thank you. So we are on item number 6, 15 GRAYMAR Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new 2-story dwelling with a covered porch, rear deck, and rear walk-up. And the applicant is seeking a variance for lot coverage. We have the applicants here. Or online.
Ali Shakiri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East. Good morning.
Good morning. Do we need to hear, I'm just going to ask our members, would you guys like to hear this application, a presentation on this one? No? I don't think we need to hear a presentation. You're welcome to, but I don't think we need to, unless you'd like to present.
No, sir. No comment to add. Happy to answer any question.
Okay. Do we have any questions? No questions. Okay. I'm going to move this into committee.
I'd like to motion to approve.
Any stated reason?
the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. It's compatible with the neighborhood, and there doesn't appear to be any significant impacts on adjacent uses.
Do we have a seconder?
I will second it.
A second from Ms. Casson. All in favor? The application is approved. Okay, it is now 11:26 a.m. We're going to break until 11:37 a.m. Welcome back, everybody. Moving on to item number 7 for 61 Norton Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with an integral garage. I have variances for lot coverage, west side yard setback, east side yard setback, building length, building height, height of the main entrance, and the front platform height. On file, I have application material submitted by the applicant, letter of objection from the neighboring property at 63 Norton Avenue, as well as a staff report from community planning. Do we have the applicant here to speak?
Ali Shakiri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East. I hope you can hear me well.
I can. Good morning.
Morning.
Can you give us a presentation on this application?
Indeed, the variances we're asking here are very common in the subject area, the Villadale area. I'm sure everybody is very, very familiar with is on the development. There's so many applications. Whatever we do and we've done in the past very many years in this neighborhood is based on the precedents and based on the evidence and the facts that we have in hand. Having said that, we were surprised to receive that late staff report is just a couple of days ago that made us submit some additional evidence. I think they are, the planning is opposing the variances number 5, 6, and 7. One of them is the building height. And the other 2, 6, and 7 are basically speaking about the height of the front door entrance and height of the front porch. I have submitted some evidence if the staff can kindly display my, this is the last one I submitted. This is about, the staff report is basically mentioning that they have done a site visit and there are some, and reviewed some committee approvals. I don't see if they're referring to any particular evidence, and site visit is not going to give definite kind of scale to measure the building. So this is one of the neighbors, for example, just a couple of doors away. It has 13 steps on the front porch, number 49 Norton Avenue. And same type of variance, 1.7 meter height at the front entrance is actually approved for that one. Well, my colleagues are just pointing at me that it's actually 14 steps if you have access to the Google maps and looking at the driveway side, there are additional steps over there, so there are like 14 in total. We don't want to do that. We don't need that. It's basically the height of the front entrance, and the entrance door is following the topography of every lot. So while for some of the lots can be more, for some of the other lots can be less, it depends on what sort of the topography we have for that particular lot. If we switch to the front elevation that I submitted, the other support, the main support material that I submitted within the 5 days time, the first, so if we switch to the second, yeah, that's the front elevation. That is the 41 centimeters. We are asking additional height for the building. It's on the front. I don't find it a major. I think that's minor. But let's say if we were to comply, we had to just slice a portion of the roof. It will not affect the indoor heights at all. The indoor heights are going to stay the same whether the first floor or second floor. And what it does is, to my opinion, it articulates the type of architecture that we're after. I think that the roof is proportionally better looking for the house if we have that, while it's not going to be casting like major shadow or causing any problem. If we go to the next page, I'm showing that this is only on the front portion. Again, that yellow shaded area is showing it that the rest of the house on the back, as I've put the measurement, is 9.86 to the roof deck. That is less than the 10-meter requirement. So I find that's very, very minor, and it's, as I mentioned, it's basically articulating the type of architecture we're after without having any harm. Again, I have, in addition to these planning nationals, I have submitted some evidence. If you switch to the other pages, for example, the page 4 of that page, the same page, it's number 139 Bing Avenue. Green highlighted 10.95 meters of height is approved, and as you go throughout the massive evidence we provided, there are some other precedents of the height. I'm
just going to ask you to wrap up soon.
Indeed, we don't think that we are entitled to this, but by doing the case study, we just want to make sure that from our side we have done our homework to make sure not putting forward any undesirable or unprecedented evidence. Yet, if you wish to remove those 3 variances, we respectfully accept, but we do believe that we've done our case study and our homework not to ask for any unprecedented variance. And
okay,
I have no further comments. If there's any question, I'd be more than glad to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any questions from committee at this time? I have one question. You noted with respect to the height of the front door elevation, you noted something, you made a comment about the topography of the site sort of requiring a higher door sill elevation. I'm just looking at the document. If we can just pull up the site plan diagram that you pulled up with the 2 adjacent properties highlighted. I'm just looking on there. Now, the DS, I presume, refers to door sill. I'm noticing that We've got door sill elevations provided for number 63 and number 59. They're about 180 or so meters versus the proposed application, which is kind of right in the middle. And I noticed on the elevation drawings that the door sill elevation is substantially higher from the adjacent properties. Perhaps you can just speak to that.
Sure. Other houses might be developed at a different time. I'm unsure of that, but the means, well, basically, what technically the front of the house, if the topography goes extensively upward, then that eliminates this variance. If it goes very flat, then that's the time we will need this kind of variance. So we need to do very extensive analysis to just compare it to the other two neighbors. What I can tell at this point is the topography for each house can be different. So and there were different type of homes. Like some of the homes that have conventional architecture where they have their garage on the main floor. Some others stacking up to floors above the garage, which is now the main development method in the Willowdale. So all of these matter. What I can say is that if you pay attention to those two numbers on the square, on the rectangle boxes on the subject property on either side of the front wall, one of them is 179.20, the other one is 179.71, and those are not majorly higher than the street height for this particular lot, and that contributes to the variance we are asking. It's a very sort of technical thing. It's hard to explain. Again, I can mention that this is a variance that is commonly granted in the Willowdale area. And for so many years that I've been practicing, it's the first time I'm seeing that objected by the planning. And I have the evidence showing that it's approved by the other variances. But for example, that number 49, I have the evidence on page 2 and 3 of that, which the same variance is approved at 1.7 meters. That's the other evidence I submitted just this morning. It was late, but you can, number 2 and that I highlighted on the second page. You see, go to the second, 1.7, and it's approved. Number 49 Norton Avenue, and the photo is also attached on the first page. It is not contributing the whole mass of the building, by the way. It's not, if I have to basically eliminate that variance, the front porch is going to come down by 2 steps, and 2 steps adding to the inside of the building. That is going to make the use of the building not convenient for the homeowner, but it is not going to affect the building mass at all. So I find it a technical variance, basically. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you. We have any other questions? Okay, I'm prepared to move this into committee for discussion. No comments. Since I asked a question, I might just I do appreciate that the applicant provided the example of the address with respect to the stairs at that one address. I will say I disagree with the comment made about it not affecting the massing of the building. I think in a lot of cases we've seen applications where you've had 1 or 2 steps internalized to mitigate the overall massing at the front. But I also acknowledge that this street is characteristic of front entrances that are typically higher than what one might expect, particularly on recent approvals in the area. No other comments?
Yeah.
Are we ready to make a motion on this?
I guess the intent of the bylaw, with regard to step height or platform height, I don't think, I think there, I'm wondering if the intent, what the intent is. Maybe we can, I mean, in this case, the steps go almost all the way up to the property line. That doesn't seem to be a character, like, I mean, that doesn't seem to be what's shown on adjacent lands. I don't think that the steps are that significant.
No concern there with that variance specifically then?
No, and I think also, like, when you look at the proposal, you see that the driveway kind of goes down quite a bit, and it probably mitigates a little bit of the impact on the streetscape of the driveway as well as the garage. So maybe that does provide somewhat of a benefit too. The height comment, I was looking, I mean, we don't have any survey evidence of existing, or any evidence of what the existing building heights are of what's in the immediate proximity. It's a 50 centimeter increase. When you're looking at the Google, like when you're looking at Street View, you do see a lot of new buildings. They seem to be, and just preliminary, like just on a very off, they do look within the 10-meter range.
I think I should note the onus is on the applicant to prove the test before us. So if if there's questions about whether or not certain standards or thresholds are kind of being met, then perhaps we ask that of the applicant if there's uncertainty, unless you're comfortable with the
maybe we should, if we move out of committee and maybe ask
Sure.
the applicant provide a bit more on that.
Pull out of committee for a minute. You can ask the applicant some additional questions.
Do you know, so I mean, the staff report did come pretty late. So I don't know if you had the opportunity to look at anything around in terms of what building heights are.
Yes, indeed, it came late, and unfortunately, several attempts by email and phone calls, we were not able to make the contact with the assistant planner who wrote this. I think that number 49, which we managed to show you, is very well showing the situation in the entire neighborhood, not only the northern area. As you well mentioned, we have even reduced the height of the building by lowering the driveway. Some of these steps actually contributing to get to that level. So from the actual grade, if we have that site plan again displayed, I think something about like 3 or 4 steps are just contributing to that. Can we have that site plan again? The other support material, yes. If we can zoom, okay, so if the topography, if you read the geodetic elevations on the driveway that's coming from survey, I can read 179.76, and the driveway is at 179.30. So that is like a 45 or 50 centimeter difference that contributes like about 2 or 3 steps. all I can tell is that this neighborhood is under a lot of development, and this is no different than any of the other recent ones. I have submitted the evidence as well. I do not know what else we could have done to shed further light on this. This is no different than the other houses in the neighborhood, if not better, lower entrance.
I have a question. Is there another precedent beside the one that you provided with respect to the number of steps or the front door elevation height? Because I understand that there are quite a few of these on the street, but I think it's important for us to understand that this variance it's not just a unicorn or a one-off. You know, there might be something site-specific. You know, I think it's important for us to ensure that the condition is something that's prevailing on the street. And I use the word prevailing because as I said, I want to make sure that we're not, you know, just relying on one of many properties on the street, and that there is actually more precedent. Are there any other properties you can point out for us?
For example, I'm just, again, since we never had this comment for so many years, I've been doing it for like 20 years for this neighborhood only, but I'm trying to just put together something very quickly as we talk. I'm looking at number, just bear with me for a second. What number is this? Number 91 Norton Avenue. The only thing I can do is to ask you to look at the Google images 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps, similar to what we are asking here. If I well, this goes in the entire neighborhood. I don't think if within the time that we have, I can do a thorough study on this.
Of course.
But well, that was another one. It's number 91. You can look at your Google images. I'm sure there's so many, depending on how much time you have. You can go to any of the other streets as well, and you see many of these precedents. I'm still looking to see if I find anything else to show. Well, usually in these cases, the best thing is the evidence. For example, if you look at page 7 of my evidence, number 193 Empress has been approved for 1.63 meter, apples to apples. Or when we prepared this, we never thought that we're going to be, to be honest, discussing about this particular issue. Otherwise, I'm sure I could have adequately provided enough evidence in the entire neighborhood. This is quite common. Looking at other streets.
You know, once we hear an application, I'm kind of reluctant to, you know, mention that, you know, there is opportunity to request a deferral if you think that you can address some of the issues that were brought up by staff. So that option, that request is available to you, should you wish to exercise it.
I came across number 105 MCKEE Avenue, for example. That has 10 steps. That's the street above. Well, I think first of all, the effect that this has on my design is we can bring that porch lower and eliminate that variance altogether. I do not think if anybody is going to benefit from this, and I do not think if it's going to help the image of the neighborhood in presence of very many other houses. The only thing is that that one person who wants to use this house, their quality of life is going to be compromised because so many steps inside of the house. Otherwise, the merit of this issue on the discussion, I mean, if we defer this case, it means that the owner has to carry this property for another 2 months. And I'm sure everybody knows 2 months worth of carrying costs for these lots. And this time is substantial. Maybe they, well, even without talking to my clients, I know they would definitely prefer to just maybe eliminate or reduce those variances. But based on my experience in the neighborhood, that's quite unfair. Still, as I mentioned, I totally respect any decision that this panel would produce. Again, I looked at the other street, MCKEE Avenue right now, and I could just see immediately number 105 has 10 steps, similar to this. Okay. So hoping that, that's acceptable to the panel. Thank you.
Sorry, we have another question.
Could I ask Simon? Is it possible that you could share the street view on the screen of 91 Norton Avenue that the applicant raised, or is that an issue?
It's a bit of an issue because I cannot, nor can you vouch that the street view you're looking at is accurate. And also people online would not be able to see that if they're only calling in. So we don't allow members to, the applicant to bring in new material for this reason.
So can I ask another follow-up question? These are more, I guess, directed at staff. Is it appropriate that we consider 91 Norton as an example?
Through you, Mr. Chair, generally when you adjudicate a file, you do not look at precedents.
But I mean, not precedents, more for establishing general character, right? Because if there's a character that's established, there is not in terms of like whether they're approvals, but in terms of whether this proposal maintains a general character, a stability of the neighborhood, OP policies as opposed to precedents. Is it appropriate to consider 91 Norton? I don't believe we have a picture of that in the agenda package. That's more my question.
What you would consider is entirely up to you, which may help you inform a decision, but I cannot advise you whether you should use that in terms of forming your final opinion.
Okay.
For many, some of this is done through a site visit.
Okay.
Just if it helps, I just emailed that photo of 91 Norton Avenue to Mr. Irving, who's the host now. I mean, I don't know if that's possible to display, but I just emailed a photo of that number 91 Norton Avenue.
Mr. Chair, again, sometimes introducing new evidence like this prejudices people who have only called in on a phone who cannot view this evidence. All evidence should have been provided ahead of time, and we state that.
Sorry, can I ask the applicant a question about this? When did you receive the report?
On a Monday. It is dated Monday. It is supposed to be receiving, I mean, we are supposed to receive that at least 5 days before. Normally, we receive the staff report in to a couple of weeks at least to provide the time to respond. So in this case, we got contacted by the planning. They asked for the supporting evidence. We provided the supporting evidence and forwarded, but not particularly about this. And when we saw that the late staff report, we were quite surprised because it seemed, I mean, usually when you're in contact, they respond. They didn't. And since Monday, I have made several email and phone attempts to contact the assistant planner, and it was unsuccessful. I have the evidence for that. I think that Mr. Lam mentioned it's not, it's out of point at this point. There is no point. But I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Have any additional questions before we move back into committee? Okay. Move into committee for discussion.
I think that I don't think the date that the plan, like that the applicant received the report, is relevant in terms of making a decision in terms of whether the variances meet the 4 tests for a minor variance. But I do think it's relevant in terms of whether we consider a 91 Norton in the decision. I do think it's relevant that we should be considering whether 91 Norton maintains the character of the area.
Well, I'll go back to my comments earlier about, ensuring that, finding one precedent on a street, I don't think is sufficient to, we're talking about, the word prevailing, right? We want to make sure that this is something that is prevailing on the street, prevailing in the neighborhood. Just driving in through the neighborhood and kind of finding the one variance that supports your case, I don't think is sufficient to meet the 4 tests. I will note that it seems like variance 6 and 7 could easily be resolved in this case simply through internalizing two or three of the stairs, as the applicant pointed out. I would disagree that this poses a significant reduction in the quality of life by internalizing, 2 or 3 steps. I think it's reasonable. I think, and generally speaking, I think, applicants and their representatives should take consideration of the bylaw. Just because it's something that was just never addressed or brought up as an issue in the past doesn't mean that attentiveness shouldn't be given to that. So those are my comments.
And excuse me. I would also suggest that the height variance is fairly minor and could be tied to the side elevations so that it only permits it in the front portion, as the applicant had indicated. So it wouldn't be granting, I believe we could do that so that we wouldn't be granting the height increase across the entire building.
So just to clarify, are you in support of variance 6 and number 7? But I believe that pertains specifically to the front door elevation, specifically the platform in front of it, and then the entry point.
You're asking me specifically?
I'm asking you specifically because there's 3 variances before us for height. I would agree with you with respect to number 5.
And I would agree with you with respect to 6 and 7, that it could be mitigated internally.
It could be mitigated via an internal step. So that you would say that the variances number 6 and 7 are not necessarily, they would not conform to the 4 tests, and therefore, and could be mitigated in another way. It seems pretty reasonable to ensure that the application is in line with the tests.
Yes.
Okay, so do we have a?
If I may add,
sorry, sorry, I'm gonna have to cut you off there. We can't have further discussion once we're in committee. Do we have somebody bring forth a motion? Or I should ask, is there any further discussion before I ask that question? Mr. Fazeli, you've been pretty quiet this morning. See any comments that you might have?
I mean, I understand that the staff report are requesting for a fuse, and at the same time, I'm hearing other panel members about mitigation and working on this. So the solution maybe could be requesting for deferral, but this is something that is on our. I
believe I put that forth to the applicant, and I think their answer was that they want to move forward with the decision. I will say it is a little frustrating I can understand it's frustrating for the applicant that staff reports are coming in this late in the game. It doesn't really provide them an opportunity to address planning in a way that's fair before their hearing. And I recognize that, you know, deferrals are costly to the applicant. Applicants make a great deal of effort to come prepared to these hearings. And if staff have comments, they need to weigh in. They need to be meeting their deadlines as everybody else. So I might, maybe there's just a comment that I direct towards our planning staff. If there's a way that we can relay that to them to ensure that their comments are receiving the appropriate amount of weight and that applicants are able to address them in a reasonable amount of time. Do we have a motion on this one? Go for it. I can see you ready. You'd like someone?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the variances except for 5 and 6 and tie variance 4 to the elevation drawings that are submitted as part of the application. I just want to clarify.
Can we just pull up the public notice here? I just want to make sure we're speaking to the correct variances if we're making.
Variance number 5.
I believe you might be referring to 6 and 7.
Sorry, that is what I intended.
Okay, let's pull up the notice here so we are clear what we're.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, when a member makes a motion such as that, it's probably helpful for us who are taking notes to indicate which variances you are refusing. So you'll approve a certain amount, and if it's your wish, to refuse and then indicate which variance, please. Thank you.
Or perhaps should I word it that in accordance with the planning staff report recommendation that recommends refusing, it recommends refusing 5, 6, and 7. I'm proposing to approve 5 and refuse 6 and 7, and conditional on that the house is constructed in accordance with the elevation and site plans that are attached with the application.
That's not bad. I just want to, sorry, not to sound casual. I just want to clarify, you wouldn't actually necessarily mention the staff report. The staff report isn't providing a condition, they're just making a recommendation. So ultimately, the decision is yours. So perhaps, again, if it's just easier if you're saying, I'm approving whatever, and numerically list what variances you're approving, and then which variances you are refusing, and if you have an additional condition.
Okay, one more time. I would like to move a motion to approve variances 1 through 5 and refuse variances 6 and 7. And I'd like to make the approval conditional on the building being constructed in accordance with the site plan and elevation drawings attached to the application.
Does any of the variances you refused impact the site plan or the elevation?
I believe they.
Oh, I guess they will. Sorry, I guess I should.
Perhaps just tie it to variance 4 or whatever, if that is your desire.
To variance 5, which is the proposed building height, which I'm recommending approval of, but that be in accordance with it's principally the elevation drawings. Is that clear? Enough.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Auspitz seconds. All in favor? Okay. We've got, and Mr. Fazeli, you are in favor as well, okay? The application is approved.
Thank you for your time.
I'm going to step out for the next item, and I'm going to ask Ms. Casson to take over as chair.
Thank you. This is item 8, 98 Blythwood Road, and it's a application to for variances to construct a rear 1- and 2-story additions and a side 1-story addition and rebuild the existing garage. Do we have the applicant here?
Yes, it's Monica Kuhn. I'm the architect and applicant for the owners.
Sorry, could you also state your address?
Yes, 12 Sackville Place, Toronto, M4X1A4. It's great to be here in person again. This is the first time I've been back since before COVID, so that's great. I just wanted to clarify the neighbor correspondence that you have on file. I met with both adjacent neighbors last week on November 16th. All of the surrounding neighbors that would have been notified by the city received the letter, the neighbor letter that you have on file as well. Those were distributed by the client at the end of October, and the client also ended up meeting all of the neighbors in person, except for the one on the east. So it was a bit surprising to us when the first letter of objection came from the neighbor to the west, saying, talking about length and deck size. It turns out that the wife hadn't even read the letter, didn't know that it existed. So that it was a bit of a confusing scenario, but we ended up working things out, and all of the objection letters were withdrawn, and you have that on your file. So just wanted to clarify that. As well, staff reports, I know that we have a forestry report. I'm aware of that. We're working with the arborist now. We have 42 trees on the lot, so we know that we're having to deal with that, and we don't have any issues. Heritage too, we've been working with Heritage for over a year. It's a beautiful Victorian building. It's very important to us to maintain the front and as much of the side as can be seen from the street. And Heritage is in approval with what we're proposing. And planning, again, has no issue. We haven't talked to them. We didn't think it was necessary, and it turns out that they don't have an issue. So I think, do you want me to go through a quick explanation, or do you want to do this through questions, or given that that you have a description of the variances in your file?
Do members wish a presentation?
I'm happy to. Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So building length and building depth. If staff could show, I sent in 2 weeks ago or last week a colored in version of what was existing and what was proposed, and so it showed what additions were being removed and what was being added, highlighted. Anyway, once you're looking for that, building length and building depth, we are actually shortening the building from what is there now. So length is 17 meters. Right now, the building's at 24.73, and we're going to 21.15. Building depth, 19 is allowed, and again, the 24.37 is going down to 21.15. So we're basically cutting off a lot of the non-heritage additions and replacing them with a new two-story addition. Front yard setback, that refers only to the section of space in front of the garage. We're taking the non-heritage garage and we're pushing the front facade back about 2 feet. And so right now, front yard setback required is 12.46. Currently, to the front of the garage that's there right now, it's 11.79, and we're pushing it back to 12.24. Oh, thanks. That's great. Side yard setback is on the east side. The existing garage is at 0.6 from the setback, and we're just extending that garage back. It's right beside the neighbor's garage, and she has no issue with that. So we're not making that we're not impacting her. Floor area, 0.35 is what's allowed. We are currently at 0.31, and we would be requesting 0.37. So it's just 0.2% over. And then the platform area is the last variance, and there are currently 2 platforms. If you go to the other page, the second floor, You can see the red hatch at the top and on the right-hand side. There are currently 2 existing roof decks or porches on the house. We're taking those off, and we're putting a more linear balcony off of the master bedroom, and that whole flat roof area is covered with a green roof. And the neighbor on the west was concerned that this would cause an overview issue, but we're very far away from them, and no closer than the deck was before, and it's then protected by trees and things along the property line. So from a privacy point of view, no change, probably even better. And I think that's it. We feel that we're moving things around, but coming up with a much more livable plan for the house and protecting trees. We're proposing to take out 2 trees on the left-hand side there that will be impacted by the addition, but we have to plant 6 more. So 2 of them are going right back in that same area. Any questions?
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the applicant? No? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We don't have anybody here, correct, to speak or online?
Through you, Madam Chair, there is no one else here to speak to this item.
Thank you. Are we okay to move into committee then? Any discussion?
I think I'm ready to forward a motion. If no one has any questions or comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to forward the motion for approval, given subject to the condition of a staff report, and also the forestry report, and heritage as well.
Can we have a seconder? Thank you. All in favor? That item is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Casson. Moving on to item number 9, 36 Gwendolyn Avenue. The purpose of the application is a proposal to construct a new single-family dwelling. Variances for front platform height, lot coverage, first floor height, side exterior main walls, front yard landscaping, number of stories. On file, I've got materials from the applicant, email and staff report from community planning, arborist report, memorandum from urban forestry. I have letters of objection from 36 Gwendolyn Avenue and 71 Stewart Avenue. Can we have the applicant, is the applicant here or online?
Hello? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Mr. Chair and committee members. This is Faraz Puyende. I'm the designer and applicant of this project. The address is 105 Harrison Garden Boulevard. And to save time, if it's possible, I just talked about those 2 variances regarding the landscaping. I had a conversation with the city planning staff, and based on that conversation, I reduced the width of the driveway to gain more soft landscaping, and I received their support for that one. I think you have it on the supportive material. Regarding the number of stories, I think one of the concern for those objections are the number of the stories. If you view The section on, could you please bring view section of this project on page, sorry.
Sir, I should also, I'm just going to jump in, and don't worry, I'll make sure that you have your time. I just want to let you know if there's any variances that you plan on changing, please let us know what the number of the variance is, which variance it is, and what the change is going to be. If you can, if there are, you can take us, if you can kindly take us through that, it would be very helpful. And I'd like you to use the public hearing notice that was sent out.
For sure. Based on our conversation, the variance number 5 is gonna be changed. Originally, the proposed front yard landscaping area is 41.45%. We change it to reach gain by reducing the width of the driveway to, I'm telling you, to gain 46.16.
So which variance is that?
Number 5.
Number 5. So
yes,
the proposed front yard landscaping area is how much? 46, you said?
Yes, originally it was 41.45, but we changed it to 46.16.
Okay, thank you. And that's the only variance?
Yes, that we have changed it. And regarding the number of stories, based on the new bylaw, the definition of the story has been changed recently, and we are just 24 centimeter above the mid of the basement, and this variance is based on that. If you please view this the section on sheet number. Let me bring it here. Okay, sheet number 8, 109, please. Yes, thank you. The portion of the basement, you can see the middle of the basement. It is based on the basement slab and the ceiling. It's only the difference is 24 centimeter above the established grade. If we add more 2 steps, we can reach out this one. If we don't, by this additional story is because of that. And I think it's a like common variance for this. It won't change the mass of the building, height of the building. We meet the maximum height 10 meter, and that's all.
Okay.
Okay, is there any question I can, yeah.
Do we have any questions from committee? No questions? We have a, yeah, Mr. Auspice?
I understand that there were a few residents who provided some written correspondence. Did you have a chance to review those?
Yes, I just saw them in the portal, and I noticed that one of them has a concern regarding the length of the building. If you view the site plan of our design, we are the length of this project is 15.62 centimeter. It is less than the maximum by bylaw. It is 70 meter. And if yes, thank you. And if you see the site neighbors, we are even equal or less than the length of their building. So we won't affect the back neighbor for one of the objections. And regarding the other objection was for the number of stories that I talked about earlier.
Okay. Do we have another speaker for this item? I believe from number 71 Stewart Avenue.
Good afternoon, committee. Just confirming you can hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Perfect. Hi, my name's Todd Mandel of 71 Stewart Avenue. So I'm one of the neighbors. I appreciate the opportunity to voice some objections. I have not had the opportunity to see the changes that are proposed in the variance for the landscaping, so I cannot comment on those, although I understand that if they are being reduced in terms of the variance requested. That's obviously positive. However, I don't have enough information to withdraw my objections at this time. My concerns, which were expressed in my letter, are that this is a very large home, and it seems out of character with the neighborhood. As well, the increasing in coverage and dimensions is a particular concern because both Gwendolen and Stewart Avenue, which is the street behind that I'm on, we're not the recipients of stormwater adjustments. And my concern is that by increasing the size of this building and particularly the landscape coverage, or reducing the landscape coverage rather, it increases the risk of flooding. And my house flooded last year due to a sudden and severe downpour, partly because there's inadequate soft land and landscaping. So it's a particular concern for me that I don't think has been adequately addressed. I'm not looking to be a difficult neighbor, and I welcome anyone coming to the neighborhood and wants to build and develop a home. I just believe that this is more than is necessary to be able to build, and it should be possible to do so within the code without requiring so many variances. So I'd like to see some further accommodation and recognition of that. So thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Thank you. I have a question for you. Are there any variances specifically that stick out for you as problematic, or your concern is with all of the variances?
Thank you. I inadvertently muted myself. My concern is with them as a whole. The landscaping, for the reasons I mentioned about flooding risk, is a particular concern. But that goes to variance number 2 as well, relating to overall lot coverage, because I really see those as being combined. I appreciate that the number of stories, if it's not changing the overall height, I don't have an objection to it, and I recognize that modern homes have a different structure. I perhaps misunderstood what was being contemplated, so I wouldn't have a particular objection to that if the overall height of the building is within code requirements. I'm not a building code expert by any means, and so I'm trying to answer your question. Hopefully that's helpful.
No, it's very helpful. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if I can just turn it back to the applicant and give him an opportunity to respond to the last speaker.
Thank you. Regarding the flood problem that this neighbor has, it is regarding the engineering department. It's for grading. It's not concern for the zoning bylaws. The committee's matters for zoning bylaws. And for the number of story that mentioned, this is because the height of the basement is a little raised, and it's not, and it won't affect the total height of the building. If we have 3 steps or 2 steps down, then this variance is gonna be gone. But the height of the building gonna be very in the basement gonna be very height, and it is not good for air conditioning, for neighbors, for shoring, for the depth of the foundation wall. So we ask this variance. This is just a small, less than a feet, 24 centimeter, to have this basement a little raised than the variance that requested by the code, and that's all.
Can we just pull up the most recent site plan? Does that document show the reduction that's proposed, or I shouldn't say reduction, but the increase in soft yard landscaping for variance number 5? Can we just see that? Okay, so this is the site plan is updated, or are we looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is updated site plan. Yeah.
Great.
If you view this site plan, you can notice that the width of the driveway now is 5.22 meters. Originally, it was 6 meters. And city staff asked me to show the rear yard landscaping because I think at the time of submission, the plans was grayscale. They thought it must be more, hard landscaping. Then I proposed this to the city staff and mentioned that the soft landscaping is less than, we have enough soft landscaping that we no need to any variances for this one.
Okay, thank you. Have any other questions? Nope. Okay. Let's move this into committee.
I think I'm ready to make a motion for approval.
Okay.
I forward the motion to approve the application condition with the staff report, which the applicant mentioned that they've been in touch and they're fine with it and they're going to revise that. Also with the condition of the forestry report. Yes, and I believe it satisfies the 4 tests. That's a reason to request for approval.
Okay. So with respect to the staff report, you're referring specifically to variance number 5, just to clarify, increase in soft yard landscaping.
Yes, so modify variance number 5 for the proposed front yard landscaping area from 41.45% to 46.16% as measured under zoning bylaw. Yes.
Okay. And just confirming, you want to include the attachments in the staff report as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Staff report, all the staff report that we received, and also the forestry
conditions, recommendations of forestry, standard conditions. Okay. Do we have a second?
I'd like to second it, but I'd like to add also that privacy concerns appear, I know that there were some concerns from residents. Privacy concerns appear to be appropriately mitigated through significant rear yard setbacks. And it's appreciated what the applicant has done to provide for appropriate landscaped open space.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, we have their seconder, Mr. Auspitz. And all in favor? Okay. The motion carries. Application is approved. Moving on. Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, 25 Tisdale Avenue. The purpose of this application is for a rear addition. The applicant is seeking variances for rear yard setback, lot coverage, as well as a rear yard platform encroachment and setback. Now, I believe there were some requested revisions to this file. I'll just ask the applicant to state their name and address and let us know if there are any proposed changes to the variances noted on the public notice.
Good afternoon. My name is Munib Al-Sibai. I am the applicant representing the owner and the architect for this project. As you mentioned, I'll start with the variances we submitted on November the 9th. We did some changes on the to the main application. I will refer to the main notice. For item number 1, the required minimum rear yard setback is 7.74 meter. The proposed rear yard setback, it was 6. We increase it to become 6.8 meter instead of 6. Then item number 2, the permitted maximum lot coverage is 30% of the lot area, which is 96.54 square meter. The proposed lot coverage is 45.5%. We improved this percentage also. It became 35% of the lot area, which is the total will be 112.63 square meter. And regarding the item number 3, because we revised item 1 and 2, So regarding the deck, the platform, which allowed to be 2.5 meter from the rear set back. So now it's become smaller, it's 2.12. So there is no problem with item number 3.
So just to clarify, you do no longer require variance number 3?
No.
So we can get rid of that altogether?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, I have a proposed rear setback. You stated 6.8 meters,
That's correct.
and the lot coverage is going from 40.5 down to 35%
That's
lot
correct.
coverage.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you
that's-
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we prepared to give us a brief presentation?
Sure, yeah. My client is a family, consists of 6 people, grandparents, parents, and 2 children, and the grandfather is on wheelchair. The entire family is currently sharing the ground floor of the house, which has only 3 bedrooms and 1 regular bathroom. This current situation of the ground floor makes it hard for the grandfather to use the existing bathroom, and also the living space is small for this family with 6 persons. For these reasons, we have proposed to build an addition to the existing house. This addition includes the creation of 1 additional accessible bedroom for the use of, for the grandparents, and an additional ensuite bathroom, and also the modification of existing bathroom to make it accessible. Do you want me to repeat again the variances?
I don't think so. No, I think
Yeah.
we've got a good grasp of them.
Yeah, and that's just high-level overview. We hope that you consider our proposal, which will benefit this family significantly. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I believe we have another speaker. Yeah, before we will get to you, I just want to ask from the committee if there's any questions of the applicant. No questions? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address for us.
Yes, hello. My name is Maria Antonakis, 47 O'Connor Drive. I'm speaking on behalf of my uncle, who is the owner of the adjacent home, 27 Tisdale Drive. Not only adjacent, he's completely attached to the home because it is a semi-detached. The concern for my uncle is the fact that by extending the back area, it's going to completely cut him off, his back windows, from any type of sunlight, and of course any basic pleasure that he needs to take from his property. He has had the property for longer than the subject property, 25 Tisdale, the owners of that home. There are 6 people that are living at 25 Tisdale right now. They were and continue to do so. They could have done anything else differently. For instance, they do rent their basement. They have already changed the facade of their home by creating an elevator to accommodate for their elderly parent. Without any disrespect, there were other alternatives to that. The garage actually goes directly into the basement of the home.
If I can just help you out here,
Yes.
I just want you to focus specifically on the variances that are before us today, because that's all we can address here, right?
Correct.
So if I could just focus you towards the
Correct.
specifically the variances, which specifically
correct.
you may have concerns with.
Of course, the concerns of the fact that he is not going to have any sunlight in the back area of his home, and the fact that it could change the actual value of his home. When there are alternatives. If they needed a larger home, they could have purchased a larger home, or they could have used the basement and not rented it out, as they are 6 individuals in the home. So we don't think that the the alternative is to actually make this home larger. And you have to understand that it does affect his home, as it is an attached home. It is not a detached home. So his home is going to be sufficiently different from the one that is attached to his. And again, limiting his home, any type of sunlight, and of course, my uncle plants all year, like not all year, sorry, during the summer season, and it's going to put his backyard into almost complete shade.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you as well.
I don't see any other speakers. I just want to confirm there's nobody else to speak to this application. No?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is no one else online.
Thank you. If I can have the applicant come back and speak specifically to the matters that were brought up by the previous speaker.
Yeah, I will just comment about the preventing the sun from to the neighborhood. If you notice, I mean, it's they have enough setback, which is around 9 meters. I mean, they are just beside, it's a semi-detached. So the new addition, we are just adding just 2.3 meter from the existing exterior, existing house, which I don't think is going to prevent the sun for the neighborhood. And still they have enough space for the sun to enter. And we offset it from the property line, if you notice, like around 80 centimeter. So, and we did not open any windows toward the neighbor to impact their privacy. So that's my comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, let's move this into committee.
I'd like to speak to the shadowing concern. I note that the addition is one story and almost a meter setback from the interior property line. I don't share the same concern.
Okay. Would you like to?
I'd like to put forward a motion to approve with modifications as requested by planning staff, which is instead of a 6 meter rear yard setback, increase that to 6.8 meters, and instead of a 40.5% lot coverage, providing for a 35% lot coverage.
And 3, Mr. Chair, variance 3 is?
Oh, yes. Sorry, and variance 3 no longer applies. Or I guess it has to be refused, so refuse variance 3.
I believe the applicant deleted it or removed it.
Okay.
Removed it, yeah. So in terms of procedure, would it be a refusal of the variance or just an omission? Is there a specific?
No, if you are in mind to approve it as amended, you would note as amended, and you can certainly reference the applicant's desire to remove variance 3. There's no need to refuse it.
Okay, as amended then. Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to revise your motion?
Yes, I would like to approve the application as amended by the applicant, and yes.
Do I have a
I'll second that.
Mr. Fazeli seconds that. All in favor? And the motion carries. The application is approved.
Thank you so much.
As amended, I should say.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, item 11.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 11, 5 AVERDON Crescent. The application is to construct a front two-story addition and a second-story addition on the north side of the existing two-story detached dwelling, with 2 variances requested for north side yard setback and the number of platforms located on a rear wall. In terms of file items, I've got material from the applicant, as well as an email from transportation, and letter of objection from 117 Underhill Drive. Can we please have the applicant online?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair,
Good afternoon.
and members. Ida Evangelista, on behalf of the owners of 5 AVERDON. Bear with me, I'm just getting my voice back. You have in front of you the submission that I made. This is currently a 2-story home. It is, albeit not a full 2-story. If we go to exactly to the subject property, you'll see on the north side, the second floor sets in. So the intent here is to make the 2-story, we're going to add an addition at the front of the home and on the north side of the home. So it is and will be a full 2-story home. The owners have been in here for now 4 years. The facade will also change. The front of elevation will also change. Our main wall height will be brought down to approximately 6.41. And as we know, we are allowed 7.50. So that changes the level of the actual walls on all elevations. So the variance relating to the north side yard setback of 1.26 is existing. And the reason why it does come up because we are adding a portion to the second floor. So it relates to the second floor. The first floor is currently at 1.26. We will not be changing that. It will remain. The footprint will remain. Now I'll take you to the 2 platforms in the rear. So I wouldn't really call them platforms. I would call them and refer them more as an area of refuge because we have one platform, 2.4, which is approximately 2.46 square meters. And the second platform is 3.78 square meters. We are permitted platform size of 4 square meters. These are more areas just to allow for more light air. These will not be platforms that you can actually spend time on, entertain on. This is just something that, just to add some characteristic to the rear, at the rear of the home. We are removing several windows from what we currently have to what we are proposing. So in light of the 2 variances that we are proposing, I will say that I respectfully submit that these variances are desirable. The changes to this home, it is a minor addition alteration to the existing home. And it's a form of intensification that I do believe does meet the 4 tests and the OP. And I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Nope. Okay. Do we have another speaker? I believe we have another speaker for this item.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I would like to start by thanking the committee to allowing us to giving us the opportunity to talk to this matter. Yes, I'm again Octavian Popescu, 117 Underhill Drive, North York, Ontario, M3A2K1. I understand that this needs to be on the record, the full address.
Sorry, and your name,
we
sir?
submitted Octavian Popescu.
Thank you.
And I think on the call is also my wife, Ionela Popescu. And she might also want to talk as well. So yes, we submitted a letter. Our main concern is related to the addition of the balconies, quote unquote, platforms at the second floor of the back wall of the new building. So this will result in almost unrestricted view of our neighborhood towards our entire backyard, or our neighbors to our entire backyard, and pretty much will bring complete lack of privacy for us in our own backyard. Just to give you a bit of a context, the property at 5 AVERDON CRESCENT is already on a higher elevation level than our backyard by about 2 meters. And I attached a couple of topographic maps sourced from the government website, as can be seen in page 3 from our letter. Just a quick note on this one, the red dots are pointing to the addresses, the actual elevation that I collected. I tried to be as accurate as possible in the backyards of the two properties. So where you see 148 meters is basically our backyard, 150 meters is our neighbor's backyard. So just to make it clear, is not the difference in elevation between Underhill Drive and AVERDON CRESCENT, but is in between the two backyards of the properties. So also, as you can see in page 4 of our letter, the second story of our neighbors is completely visible for us from the ground level. And if I'm going to the main floor in my kitchen, I can basically see the entire house of my neighbors. So this situation has been already in a couple of instances proven uncomfortable, not just for us, but for our neighbors, simply because in the summer we like to enjoy the sun and sunbathing and things like that. So yeah, so this is our main concern. I would also add to this the fact that the property at 5 AVERDON CRESCENT, they already have in their backyard a pool deck that extends as close as 1 meter away from our back fence. And that contributes to the lack of privacy. So you can see in those 2 pictures that I took from my backyard, the 2 cedar trees that are there, they are covering a little bit the view from our house. I think it would be an acceptable solution for everyone to provide mutual privacy to us and our neighbors, to have a line of cedar trees or something similar along the fence. There is basically almost probably a little bit more than 1 meter gap between the fence and the pool deck that they have. So that can be used to plant a line of cedar trees or something similar that will extend, by my estimates, 2.5 meters above the top of the fence to provide the privacy. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. So just to clarify, your concern is predominantly from the privacy that stems from the variance for the 2 rear decks. And just to clarify, that you don't have an issue with any of the other variances. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, that's correct. That's basically, I mean, those 2 balconies, they're inherently used to provide a lookout point. And I mean, from their property, from that height, they have a splendid view of the downtown. And I'm pretty sure that they would like to enjoy that, not by themselves, but maybe when they have guests. And when they're out there on the balcony, it might become an uncomfortable situation for both us enjoying the summer in the backyard, and themselves just not enjoying just the downtown view, but also their neighbors that are in their backyard. So I think it will be an acceptable solution for it's a mutual privacy concern. Let me put it that way.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for the current speaker? No? Okay. I'm going to ask the applicant to come back and respond.
Mr. Chair, I believe there's one more speaker.
Thank you. Can we have our third speaker on this item? Please state your name and address.
Yes, hello. So this is Ionela Popescu, 117 Underhill Drive, M382K1. And really just wanted to concur with my husband's statements, and also to add that we would like to, and we did speak with our neighbors. We would like to keep the great relationship that we have. So the purpose of this really is to find a mutually convenient solution, you know, in the context of keeping in mind that nothing is permanent. So, you know, the neighbors that we are today may not be the neighbors that are in place in a couple of years from now. So it is important to find solutions that are mutually acceptable and that are also feasible for the short term and the long term for both neighbors.
Okay, okay, thank you. And just to confirm, both of the last 2 speakers were both from the same address? Correct, okay. Thank you. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to ask the applicant to come back and speak to the last 2, the comments from the last 2 speakers.
Mr. Chair, in response to the neighbors at 117 Underhill, they too live in a 2-story home. They too can stand on their 2nd floor and look down. So, you know, the overlook, the onlook, it goes both ways. We can understand, appreciate that. The comment about guests, entertaining guests on the balconies to view the beautiful downtown scape. No, these are not balconies that you can entertain on. These are not even balconies the size that you can put a bistro set on and sit down. These are just, again, simply light air, no different than if they were to continue to have a window. We have removed many of the windows at the back. We've also brought down the main wall height, as I mentioned, to 6.41 meters, which is now above, I believe it's now currently 7.8 meters. So in that respect, you know, if we want that, they did have a conversation. My clients at the owners of 5 AVERDON with 117 Underhill, they did have a conversation. They are quite amenable to putting trees across the back. They made that perfectly clear. The owners of 117 had suggested cedars. However, you know, with this new home, they will they will be doing some nice landscaping. So they would like to get someone who is has expertise in this area to better the area. They do understand. They want to be neighborly. They have been living in this house. They will be continuing to live in this house. So they want to maintain that relationship with their neighbors behind them. So I really, sometimes we do have to have faith, right? You know, that word faith has kind of flown out the window. So in that respect, this is a conversation that the two neighbors had. I can assure you and assure the neighbors that there will be trees that will be planted along the back, be it cedars, and even the neighbors did say something similar. The intent here is to give them their privacy, and the owners of 5 AVERDON, they would like their privacy too, because again, they can stand in their second floor windows and they can overlook onto the backyard. So again, I'll just reiterate that the variances that are in front of you are very minor. It's to, add some articulation along the back so you don't have that flat wall. It's more just to add in, some great light to those particular rooms. They are bedrooms. They're considered, I'd say, more of an area of refuge than an actual platform or a deck that you can entertain on. And I'm open to any other questions that you may have.
Thank you. Okay, we have no other questions from our committee, so let's move this into committee right now for discussion.
I could start and say, from what I'm hearing, the main concern is regarding privacy. I tend to agree with the applicant. These are very small balconies that are coming off of bedrooms. I don't see how they would pose a significant privacy concern on anyone. For that reason, I would like to motion to approve the application.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a seconder from Ms. Casson. All in favor? Okay, the decision is unanimous and the application is approved.
Thank you.
Okay. Last item for the morning. Do you need to step out? Yeah. Do we need to take? Oh, it's a conflict. Thank you. Okay. So for the record, Ms. Casson will be stepping out for item number 12.
And I believe she gave a reason earlier on.
I believe yes, she did. The property address, 18 RAEBURN Avenue. And the purpose of the application is to widen the existing driveway with variance for front yard landscaping and front yard soft landscaping. Application materials from the applicant on file, as well as letters of support from various neighbors, including 7, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 RAEBURN Avenue. Do we have any last minute reports from staff? Anything on this? I don't see anything on file. Just want to confirm. Nothing else on file. Okay. Do we have the applicant here? Great. Can you please come down to the mic, state your name and address? Believe it, just from committee, we want a presentation on this.
I don't think that's necessary.
I see a thumbs up. So I believe we're okay to skip a formal presentation on this item. We've reviewed it, the application material that is before us. We will move right to committee if that's okay.
Mr. Chair?
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Thumbs up.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can we just get the name and?
Yes, sorry. Thank you.
My name is Terry Mueller, 18 Rayburn Avenue, and I am the homeowner.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure. So my wife and I have been living on this property since 2006. We've now built a new home, and we would just like a wider driveway, which is consistent with all our other neighbors who have single-car garages, so that we don't have to juggle cars back and forth. Our guests can park. We don't have to worry about leaving a car on the street when snow plows come, etc. And our neighbors are in favor of this and are quite happy that we've built a home that fits in with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving into, do you have any questions before we move into committee? No? Okay.
I'd like to motion to approve the application as minor and meets the 4 tests of a minor variance.
Okay.
I second that.
Second from Mr. Fazali. All in favor? The motion carries. And the application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe item 13 we have already dealt with, so that should conclude our morning session. Okay. It's now, let's say about 1:15. What time, just to confirm with staff, what time does our PM session supposed to start at?
At 2 p.m.
At 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So
It's up to you if you want a little longer, like an hour lunch, but I'll leave that in your hands.
okay, I think we're okay to take the full hour today. I think we've done well. We're on time.
So if you could announce what time we will restart.
Okay, so let's reconvene at 2:15 in about 1 hour's time.